A wintry English day, an English country road, and a left-hand drive car built in Turkey, and you may wonder, what is the connection? Well, the answer, of course, is exports. This car is the Anadolu. It sounds a bit like a cure for a headache, but that's simply the Turkish way of saying Anatolia. It's a 1200cc, five-seater saloon designed and developed by the Reliant Motor Company at Tamworth here in Staffordshire. The body, like all Reliant bodies, is made of glass fibre, and production is divided roughly 50-50 between Britain and Turkey. Broadly speaking, Reliant take care of the engine, the gearbox, the suspension and the electrics, and the Otosan company in Istanbul look after the chassis and the body. Now, the expectation is that this year some 4,000 of these cars will be built in Turkey, and they will bring in about £1 million worth of foreign currency to help the British export drive. How did all this come about? Well, let's go to the factory and find out.
It came about originally because Turkey wanted a car of its own. Although there is an element of a steel industry there, they have no sheet steel product, and our glass fibre concept for producing cars seemed ideally made for their requirements. So negotiations began, and after a very few months we were able to conclude the business part of it. Another year and a half later, we concluded the government negotiations and got the go-ahead.
And how many cars have been made so far?
In the first year of production, over 2,000. The car has been very successful in its reception by the public in Turkey, and plans are now well ahead to increase production during this coming year.
Well, why didn't you simply make this car here in Tamworth and ship it to Turkey?
Well, simply because there would have been no business. Turkey has a very strict licensing system for the import of cars, and we wouldn't have been allowed to sell cars there anyway.
But part of the car is in fact made here, is it not?
About half of the car is shipped from here, and then the rest of the car is made in Turkey and the full assembly procedure carried out there.
What prospects are there of similar deals with other countries?
Oh, very good indeed. This package deal that we're able to offer is very interesting for developing territories that want to build up a comparatively small car industry. And discussions are at an advanced level with lots of territories, African states, some more European countries, some Comecon countries too, where it's natural, and also the Far East and South America.
Now, you're best known here for the Reliant Three-Wheeler. Is there a good export prospect in three-wheelers?
A good export prospect, it's a limited one. I wouldn't say it was good, but it's much better than we ever dreamed it might have been, say, 3 years ago. For as recent as that, we were not exporting any three-wheelers at all. This year has just concluded, we exported about 700 three-wheelers. That's worth about £250,000 in export business.
The new BMH Leyland merger serves only to emphasize where Reliant stands, a pygmy among the giants. But having barely 1% of the total output of the British car industry is not without its advantages. Individual skill has not been swamped on the shop floor by mass production techniques. Company policy since the firm began 30-odd years ago has been to make as much as possible for itself. The assembly area is a small workshop where skilled men work in teams, a contrast to the giant car factories elsewhere, where most of the assembly job is broken down into tiny, repetitive details. A separate factory some miles from Tamworth is the centre for engine production. No other British car company makes so many engines of the light alloy type, and every engine is given a hot running test for final adjustments. Glass fibre for the car bodies demands techniques vastly different from those of the larger car body factories. It is handwork, often with the simplest of homemade tools. Essentially, the techniques are those of the tailor cutting cloth, rather than the metalworker banging out steel bodies on a giant press. The glass fibre sheets are bonded together with plastic resin and moulded into shape by heating in simple presses. Here, as in many other parts of the factory, the moulds and jigs are designed and built by the company's own engineers. Although this is a smallish company, it is by far the largest user of glass fibre in the motor trade. It has had to pioneer the techniques of handling and shaping this modern material. The glass body is not cheaper to make than the conventional metal body, on the contrary, but it cannot rust or corrode, and it is easily repaired after an accident. If one doubts the strength or resilience of the material, there's always somebody at hand who is happy to give a vigorous demonstration. Upholstery is another part of production where skilled handwork is important. Reliant are primarily makers of three-wheelers, and while several other makers have faded out, their success continues. More than 1,000 of these vehicles have been exported in the past 18 months. For home and export combined, the company booked orders worth £2.5 million at the last motorcycle show. Economy motoring, represented by this class of vehicle, is sensitive to the ebb and flow of hire purchase restrictions, purchase tax and the like. Company policy is therefore to look for export markets to help to offset uncertainty at home. Confidence in the future is so great, however, that an expansion policy has been announced and the recruitment of more workers to achieve it has already begun. Over the past 4 years, the company has swung away from its exclusive devotion to three-wheel motoring. A four-wheel car was created, retaining economy in operation and maintenance, since it has always been recognized that many Reliant owners are the mechanically minded sort who like to do their own servicing. It was in fact the coming of the four-wheel Reliant, named the Rebel, which led to the real breakthrough into export markets. Now the power unit has been enlarged and the export drive is on. The Staffordshire Factories, in addition to employing skilled men, also have many jobs for women, particularly on trim and upholstery work. A close inspection is the final stage in the production cycle. Special models for special markets include a three-wheel pickup, which has been created for Greece and is proving successful on the hilly country roads there. Devaluation confronted the company with a pricing problem, and I spoke about it with the sales director.
Mr. Scott, was devaluation for you a headache or an opportunity?
I suppose it was both, really. The first headache came because the morning after devaluation I was leaving for a trip to Europe, and immediately I had to get a bit of paper and work out the new selling prices. These had to be provisional because one has to do this in conjunction with an importer, but that I suppose was the first headache.
So you got right away onto the question of how much the price could go down.
Yes, immediately, because after all, this was the whole purpose of devaluation, and the thing that we are interested in is how much benefit can we derive from this in lowering our prices in overseas markets.
Now, this is for Reliant cars today, but what of the Reliant cars of the future?
Well, we have lots of ideas, and maybe this is some sort of an indication, but after all, you know, we don't have to wait too much in the future because we have a very good motor car, the Scimitar, and perhaps you'd like to come and have a look at it.
The Scimitar is built with either a 2.5-litre or a 3-litre engine with speeds well over 100 miles an hour. The 2.5-litre version, which has a 600-mile range without refueling, is aimed specifically at European markets.
And so a sports car has been added to the export range, and Reliant seem confident that this is another great step forward. At any rate, here is one firm at least which has decided to cut the price to the foreign customer and pass on to him the full benefit of devaluation.